All right, let's get straight into it. This is your executive intelligence briefing. Okay, first things first. The document set we're working from is dated February 1st, 2026. So everything you're about to hear is grounded in that specific intelligence. So what's the big picture here? Well, the highest stakes pivot for leadership is happening right now. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the operating environment for pretty much every leader out there.
And what does that actually mean? It means we're moving past the stage of just monitoring risks, watching those external pressures like new trade rules and internal ones like new labor codes. The game has totally changed. Now it's all about implementing new realities. The time for just watching from the sidelines, that's over.
So if there's one word, one golden thread that ties all of this together, it's this: recalibration. We're seeing a complete resetting of the baselines for trade, for politics, and for regulations. Bottom line, the rules of the game are literally being rewritten as we speak. Now we turn to our agenda. We're going to kick things off with some deep dives into the new rules. Then we'll explore the undercurrents and systemic shifts to watch. After that, a quick look at what's on the radar for future disruptions. And we'll wrap it all up with a final synthesis on what your mandate is right now.
Now we turn to Deep Dives, the new rules. Here, we're examining the three most immediate, high-impact events that demand your attention.
So, our first deep dive, the India-EU trade deal. This was just wrapped up on January 27th, and the stakes, well, it's all about creating selective competition. Make no mistake, this deal is designed to pick very specific winners and losers. And this is where we see the classic anchor and twist. The anchor? On the surface, it looks fantastic. I mean, over 99% of Indian export value is now covered by EU tariff concessions. You'd think that's a massive, wide-open door, right? But here's the twist. This deal is incredibly surgical. It uses very specific quotas and price band exclusions to shield mass market segments while completely exposing premium categories to new competition.
Take a look at wine tariffs. This is a perfect example. Tariffs on the expensive bottles, they're dropping like a rock. But the cheaper, mass market stuff gets no concessions at all. So what do you need to watch? Keep your eyes glued to the import flows. The second they hit those quota ceilings, you'll see a snapback to the old, much higher tariffs.
All right, story number 2, the gig economy and labor reform. You've got major platforms actively scrambling to redesign their entire business models, and they're doing it ahead of 4 new labor codes even coming into effect. And the stakes? They couldn't be higher. We are talking about a fundamental recalculation of unit economics, all thanks to new Social Security costs and complexity.
So here's the anchor. It's easy to dismiss this as just another regulatory update. But the twist is how massive the impact is. It's so significant that quick commerce companies are already hitting the brakes on their expansion plans. And they're doing it based on draft rules. That is a huge signal a major economic shock is about to hit this entire sector. And for our third deep dive, we're looking at the leadership reset in Maharashtra. Sunetra Pawar has just been sworn in as Deputy CM following the death of Ajit Pawar. But, and this is a big but, this is all happening while talks of a major party faction merger are still up in the air. The stakes here, nothing less than policy stability and the entire balance of power in a key state.
Again, we have an anchor and a twist. The anchor is that this looks like a straightforward leadership succession, but the twist? It's been confirmed by Sharad Pawar himself that a merger was actually set for February 12th. So this isn't just about who gets the job, it's a potential recalibration of the entire state's power structure. The key thing to watch now is any formal announcement about that suspended February 12th timeline. Bottom line, all 3 of these deep dives show us that the very foundations, strategic, operational, and political, are being actively, and I mean actively, recalibrated.
Now we turn to undercurrents, systemic shifts to watch. Now that we've looked at the immediate events, we're going to zoom out and look at the key drivers shaping the whole macro environment. Because beyond the headlines, there are always systemic shifts to watch. These are the big, slow-moving currents under the surface, but they're the ones with the real power, shaping the entire environment we're operating in. Let's start with the economy. The big driver here is this combination of quota-linked trade deals and some serious domestic supply chain gaps. I mean, look at battery capacity. We have 1.4 GWh installed, but the target is 50 GWh. That's a huge gap. The forward implication is pretty stark. You've got to plan for uneven competitive pressures and treat that battery capacity issue as a hard ceiling on how much you can scale. Second, business and markets. The driver here is a shift in what compliance even means. Regulators are not interested in simple box ticking anymore. They're pushing for provable, demonstrable fairness. And the implication of that is huge. Competitive advantage is going to shift to the firms that can actually design for fairness and create the evidence trails to prove it.
Third, politics and policy. What's the driver? Well, all those leadership successions and merger roadmaps are moving out of the realm of rumor and onto concrete timelines. The forward implication is that policy at the state level becomes much more sensitive to what you might call coalition survival logic. That means your stakeholder maps for key states need rapid, constant updating.
And fourth, geopolitics and security. The driver is that we're seeing two things happen at once: serious domestic security operations in places like Kishtwar and Samba, and at the same time, major international arms transfers ratcheting up global tensions. The implication for leadership is you have to integrate these security signals into your planning. A security-aware baseline is no longer optional, it's the default. Bottom line, these systemic shifts are creating brand new, non-negotiable constraints on how you operate, but also new opportunities.
Now we turn to On the Radar, Future Disruptions. Let's look at a few weak signals that could tell us what's coming down the pike.
Okay, two signals you need to be watching. First, go back to those gig work operations. The fact that platforms are changing plans based on draft rules, that's a blaring alarm for the unit economic shock that's coming. Second, look at space. The industry is demanding an 18x funding injection from the government. That is a policy advocacy signal, plain and simple. It's an attempt to shift space from just a niche sector to being seen as critical national infrastructure. Bottom line, these signals show you exactly where the next recalibrations are being planted, deep inside corporate cost models and right at the top of national policy debates.
Now we turn to final synthesis, your mandate now. Let's tie all of this together.
So, let's bring it back to that golden thread, recalibration. This is not some future event we're planning for. It is the current operating reality. What's changed is that the very ground beneath our feet, the baseline for trade, for labor, for political power, is no longer stable. It's actively in flux. But you know what hasn't changed? The absolute critical need for decisive leadership.
The biggest takeaway here is that the old monitor and wait approach is frankly obsolete. It's just not viable anymore. Your mandate, right now, is to actively reassess, to actively recalibrate. Which leaves us with one final, crucial question that every single person listening needs to ask. Are your strategies, are your risk models, and is your resource allocation truly calibrated for this new reality?